Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this little guy right here. It's so cute, right? It's the Trijicon TA44 1.5 magnification ACOG. Now there are two of these, the 44 and the 45. I reviewed the 45 before, but this one here has some pros and cons that we'll get into versus the 45 here a little bit later on. It's one of the smallest ACOGs out there on the market and the lowest magnification. So of course the pros in that are going to be, generally speaking, that it's going to be faster up close, sort of like a red dot, and then at distance it's going to lose a little bit of the magnification capabilities and precision capabilities that some of the larger, more magnified ACOGs have. So what we're going to do is a little bit more shooting. Then we're going to come back inside, take a look at the details of it, compare it to a few different models, get into the reticle, all that stuff, and what I think of it overall. And we'll do that after the dogs take a look at it. Getting into the details, one thing that's always the case on ACOGs is that they're pretty simple overall, not a whole lot of buttons and switches, which makes them quite nice. So this one is operated by a combination of tritium as well as fiber optics. So we have this fiber optic rod here on top, and what that's doing is gathering light and projecting it onto the reticle, focusing it onto the reticle. So that way, if you're out in bright sunlight, the reticle will be very bright. If you're in low light, the tritium on the inside, which is going to last about 12 to 15 years according to Trijicon, will actually illuminate the optic. So if you're in a low light situation, you're going to see that tritium in there illuminating the circle and the dot. Now, one criticism of ACOG, which I think is very fair, particularly ones that have this dual illumination, or I should say only ones that have this dual illumination, is that the illumination cannot fit the scenario you're in. So for instance, if you're inside of a dark room firing out into a bright alleyway, you're only going to have the illumination from the area you're in. So it may seem a little bit dim compared to the area you're firing out into, which is very bright. Conversely, if you're got a very bright sunlight day and you're firing out into like an area that's shaded, it may seem a little bit too bright. Of course, I'm sure many of you guys have seen pictures of folks with tape over their fiber optics, so that is one solution, but it's just one of the very few downsides to ACOGs actually, but with practice and training, it's not much of an issue in my opinion. Both the windage and elevation adjustments are half MOA, so that's going to translate to approximately half an inch at 100 yards. The clicks are audible and crisp. You really feel them. It just feels like very high quality adjusters, as you would expect from an optic in this price range. And the actual adjustment knobs themselves are protected by caps, which are sealed. Now, I should note that this ACOG is just like the majority of ACOGs out there, where it has that sort of rubberized coating on the outside of a forged aluminum housing, so it's very durable. It is water submersible as well. When you actually tighten down these caps, they're O-ring sealed, and it really will keep all the moisture out of there. So I'm sure most folks watching this aren't going to be doing any scuba missions with it, but if you're out hunting with it, you don't have to worry at all about water getting in there and fogging up your glass. Longtime viewers of the channel know that I've reviewed the TA45, which is another 1.5 power ACOG. Here in the past, I use it all the time, really like it. And of course, the 44 here, I just want to kind of compare them because they're both 1.5 magnification optics. Let me get these set up so that they're relatively the same. And each has its pros and cons in terms of the body structure. So the 45 has a couple different reticle options, including a triangle and a crosshair. The 44 just has the circle and dot, which we'll get into a little bit more later in the review. This one, of course, is much smaller, and one thing that's very evident when you actually use them is that on the 44, the eye relief is a good bit shorter than it is on the 45. So with the 44, the eye relief is only going to be 2.4 inches. And that's what the manual says, and I'd say that's probably about accurate. That's sort of optimal, so that way you're not going to have shadowing and things like that when you're looking through it. However, your field of view is 39 feet. The 45, I don't remember offhand what the actual eye relief is. I'll put it in the bottom, but I know the field of view at 100 yards is going to be 25 feet, so it's a little bit bit more tubular when you're looking through it, but it has some advantages in terms of eye relief and eye box that the 44 doesn't have. It's a little bit tighter. Now, all that said, it's really a matter of preference. I would take either one of these. I definitely like both designs. There's just, again, pros and cons to them. Now, in terms of mounts, which you guys probably see here, the things that I like about the 44 is that being with the optic, having that smaller body, it generally takes smaller mounts. Now I say that, and this is actually the largest mount that I know of for this optic. It's the Bobro, very solid mount. It's relatively expensive, but it's very solid. Lockup's great, no issues with it, except for the size is a little bit big. I would actually recommend the Midwest Industries one. I have one on a different ACOG, and they make one for the micro ACOG, which is what this is. And really, I would go that route if I could do it again. Nothing wrong with the Bobro, just a little bit large in my opinion. And of course, this one here is the American Defense Manufacturing mount for the standard ACOGs. So make sure if you're going for the 44 mount, you want something for the micro ACOGs, like the one that we're going to put a link down below for you guys to check out. Something I think is a little unfortunate about these 1.5 power ACOGs is that they're not really out there in like your local gun shop and stuff like that. So better comparison that many of you will relate to from either military experience or just seeing them out in stores is here is the TA01, which is the same size as the TA31. It's a fixed 4-power ACOG. This one, of course, doesn't have a mount on it right now, but it will give you an idea of the overall size of it compared to the 44. You can see if we line them up, how they stack up. And just sort of looking at the bodies, you can see there it's a much larger optic, much heavier. But of course, you get that extra magnification, but it's going to be a little bit slower, even with the bend-in aiming concept up close. So pros and cons to each, like always. We covered most of the features with the exception of the reticle. So this one here, it has the reticle that you see rolling in on your screen right there. It's a circle and the dot reticle. Now, a lot of folks out there who are familiar with EOTechs or some of the new Holosun optics will recognize a circle and a dot as a very fast acquisition type reticle, and it absolutely is. So up close and personal, in my opinion, that draws my eye faster and gets me on target faster than like a crosshair, for instance. So that sort of is the advantage of it, is that you have that speed up close, and that reticle really, I think it's a 20 or 25 MOA circle, and then the dot in the middle that really does get you on target quickly. Definitely a pro to it. However, there is a con to it, and the con to it is particularly when you're outside shooting in daylight, one thing that you get due to the fiber optic on there, even if you cover it up a little bit, is that the circle being sort of narrow on a 1.5 power optic will make you lose some of the precision capabilities at distance. So just an example that I noticed is that I have this little 6-inch popper target from shootsteel.com, and when I put it out beyond, probably it starts to deteriorate and starts to happen around 150 to 200 yards. When I put it out that far, sometimes the edges of the circle, particularly if it's really bright, will sort of bloom in. And what I have to do to get back on target is lower the optic and then come up and sort of cross the top of the circle and then get the dot on the target. So, and the reason is just, of course, that the contrast of whatever's in the background and the target. Now, if I had it freshly spray painted white, you don't really see that. But if you shoot it a few times and it gets gray and the background's gray or green or something like that, it really does hurt some of the contrast. So that's sort of the downside of it. So the positive, of course, is speed up close. The downside is precision. So unlike the 45, this isn't offered in a crosshair reticle where you would not lose some of those capabilities at distance as much, but it's faster up close. So which one do you want, right? You can't have everything. You have a little balance of both. But one thing for sure is that it's durable like all the other ACOGs. I would feel very confident dropping my rifle, putting this on a duty rifle, not having to worry about it, particularly if you had a good mount like the Midwest Industries or the Bobro that we have here. They just hold zero well, and you can knock them around and not really have to worry about it, which is the beauty of ACOGs. Of course, that comes at a price. Like all ACOGs, they're not cheap. These ones, I think the cheapest I've ever seen one of these for is like $980, and the most expensive, of course, is like $1,200, $1,250, something like that. So they're generally going to be somewhere in that price point range. It's expensive, no doubt about it, but If you want a really high quality optic, it's definitely one of the best ones on the market for sure. Now of course there's red dots that are at a lower price point, but you're not gonna have the magnification. Pros and cons, right? One thing that's a big pro of ACOGs though is going to be people who have astigmatism. So if you have astigmatism, you're not going to have the blur and the washout and all that stuff that you guys have with red dots. You're not going to have that at all with ACOGs. ACOGs are a prismatic type lens, and it takes all that away for you guys out there. Now I don't have astigmatism nor problems with red dots. I like both for sure. I have two of these ACOGs, the 1.5 power ACOGs that I bought with my own money. So I certainly like them, but there's like pros and cons to them like anything else. But really, to me, the big pro is reliability, durability, and glass clarity. It's just awesome with these, like it is on all ACOGs. Whether or not it's worth it, really, I guess it's up to you guys to decide. So if you guys have any questions about the scope, anything else that we talked about here on the channel, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.